Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of I Am. I Am is a Catholic podcast in the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Papua New Guinea and Solomon Islands. Here on I Am, we share on the coming Sunday's Gospel every week. Thanks for joining us, guys. Our Gospel for this week is taken from John chapter 1, verse 35 to 42. As John stood with two of his disciples, Jesus went past and John looked towards him and said, "Look, there is the Lamb of God." And the two disciples heard what he said and followed Jesus. Jesus turned around, saw them following and said, "What do you want?" They answered, "Rabbi," which means teacher. "Where do you live?" He replied, "Come and see." So they went and saw where he lived and stayed with him that day. It was about the 10th hour. One of these two who became followers of Jesus after hearing what John had said was Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter. The first thing Andrew did was to find his brother and say to him, "We have found the Messiah," which means the Christ. And he took Simon to Jesus. Jesus looked at him and said, "You are Simon, son of John. You are to be called Cephas," which means rock. A Gospel of the Lord. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of I Am. This is our second Sunday for the year 2024. For this week's episode, we have a special guest. The sharer is a special person to me. I consider him a brother. Now, our special guest for this episode is Mr. Jordan Charleland. Now, Jordan is a young novitiate with the Emeritus Priest Religious Order. He is currently in Fiji attending the Emeritus Novitiate program, and he has come back to Papua New Guinea for his break, and he was kind enough to share for us on this week's Gospel for this week's episode. So without further ado, I pass it on to Jordan to bless us with his sharing.
My dear brothers and sisters, as we approach the second Sunday in Ordinary Time, we are reminded by the words of Christ himself, and John is pointing explicitly to us that Jesus is the Lamb of God. Now, for me, Lamb of God is very important. First of all, it's not just something popped up like that, but we have to recognize the Jewish roots of the Lamb of God. If we go back in the ancient Jews, in how the ancient Passover is celebrated, we can just sum it up in 5 steps, how it is celebrated. Number 1 is the choosing of an unblemished male lamb, that this male lamb has to be freed from any flaws or something like that. And number 2, that the lamb has to be sacrificed. 3, that they have to spread the lamb's blood on their home, as a sign of a sacrifice has been offered. Even more than that, we find the 4th step is that they have to eat the flesh of the lamb, also with an unleavened bread. The last of it is that every year they have to keep the Passover as the day of remembrance, that it points back to the Exodus, that they are liberated by God. So we believe, as it is our Catholic faith, our Christian faith, that this everything is culminated, fulfilled, that Christ himself is the culmination of what we call salvation history. That God has spoken to the prophets, prepared them, and he is fully revealed of the second person of the blessed Trinity. So we find Christ himself now becoming the Lamb of God, taking over, giving meaning radically to what he was just basically revealing himself through the ancient times in the Jews. But this is it. This is the Lamb of God. But even more than that, Christ, we find in his words, asking 2 of the disciples of John, what do you want? What do you truly want? And this is what God always does. He does not impose upon our free will, controlling us. No, he asks, what do you want? And what do they say? Where do you live? And the consoling and the most inviting words of Christ, come and see. So when I say he never imposed upon our free will, when we find in the gospel, it is very true. And I can substantiate that claim by looking at the very mystery of why God becoming man, of the incarnation itself. The very mystery of the incarnation required an acceptance. God never imposed upon our Blessed Mother that she had to actually say yes for this mystery of God becoming man. She had to enflesh the word itself. So Christ himself reminds us that come and see. But one of the most important things again, which I believe is not just, it holds profound significance, is Simon, that is now been given a name. Christ calls him what? He calls him the Cephas. What does it mean? The rock. And how is Peter related to us? How is the rock related to us? By giving a new name, we are reminded also in our baptismal promise. By virtue of our baptism, we're given a new name, a new identity. We stand before God as his children. And this identity of ours, that we should be like John as well. That John points to Christ as the Lamb of God. We also, as the children of God, should also reveal Christ to others, that they must also recognize Christ as the Lamb of God. This is our baptismal promise. This is the identity we have received, the name that we have received, that we have also become that rock itself, where others step on and recognize clearly the gratuitous love of God, is truly shown as God himself, who laid down his life, who has shown himself to be the Lamb of God. Thank you.
Hey everyone, once again, thank you for joining us for this episode of I Am. We hope that this episode was helpful to you. If you feel that it could be helpful for someone else, please kindly share this video. Also, don't forget to like and to subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you'd like to see more Catholic content, feel free to scroll through our YouTube channel and check out our other videos. Thank you and see you next week.